7. Ryujo. The Ryujo was a Japanese aircraft carrier in service during World War II. Commissioned in 1933, it was initially designed as a light carrier able to hold up to 8,000 tons, 7,257.478 metric tons. The aircraft underwent significant upgrades over the years, eventually increasing its displacement, allowing it to carry up to 48 aircraft. The Ryujo played a significant role in the early stages of the war in the Pacific Theater. Most famously, it participated in the invasion of the Philippines back in 1941 and was later in the Battle of Midway. During Midway, the Ryujo was part of the Japanese carrier force that was surprised by American ships and suffered heavy losses. Although it launched a strike against the American fleet, it was ultimately sunk by enemy aircraft on August 24, 1942, during the Battle of Eastern Solomons. Ryujo's design was considered incredibly innovative for its time, incorporating a flush deck design that provided more space for aircraft storage and handling. But this new design also made it more vulnerable to attack, since it lacked the armor protection other carriers had. In terms of weapons, the Ryujo was equipped with 8 12.7mm machine guns and 12 25mm anti-aircraft guns. It also had a small air group compared to other carriers, with a complement of 18 Mitsubishi A6M0 fighters and 27 Aichi D3A dive bombers. Overall, the Ryujo was a key player in the Pacific, but its vulnerability to attack ultimately led to its destruction. Nevertheless, its design innovations helped to shape the development of future aircraft carriers, and its legacy can still be seen in modern carriers flying around the world. 6. USS Missouri. The USS Missouri, BB-63, was first launched back in 1944 towards the end of World War II. She left from the New York Naval Shipyard in Brooklyn, New York, and was the last battleship commissioned by the U.S. Navy. Throughout the course of her 51-year service time, the USS Missouri honorably fought in 3 wars: World War II, the Korean War, and the Persian Gulf War. Early January 1945, the USS Missouri even sailed into the Pacific Theater. Mighty Mo, as she was called, bore witness to a lot of action, especially on the Eastern Front. She played a key role in the shore bombardment and air strikes on Japan's mainland, along with participating in invading Okinawa as well as Iwo Jima. But despite everything she has seen, the ship's biggest and most famous role was being host to Japan's official surrender ceremony in Tokyo Bay on September 2, 1945. After World War II, the USS Missouri later made a return for the Korean War in the Pacific. The battleship served in 2 deployments, the first one from September 1950 to March 1951, and the second from September 1952 to March 1953. The battleship helped the Marines during the Battle of Chosin Reservoir by offering fire cover, and also participated in the last days of the Battle of Incheon by delivering shore bombardment. She bombed Korea's coastline throughout the war and sailed behind aircraft carriers in their task force to give them anti-aircraft protection. In 1955, she was finally decommissioned and stayed that way for about 31 years. In 1986, though, she took part in Operation Earnest Will, guarding Kuwaiti tankers that were flying the United States' flag in the Middle East. Missouri went back to the Middle East in the 1990s to engage in the Battle of Khafji to help bombard Iraqi soldiers there in Kuwait and Saudi Arabia. She then entered the Navy's ship donation program after being decommissioned for the second time in 1992. In 1998, the Missouri was finally towed to Pearl Harbor, where she now serves as a memorial to the Japanese surrender. 5. The Yamoto. Built for the Imperial Japanese Navy, IJN, right before World War II, Yamoto was the head ship in her class of battleships. She and her sister ship, Musashi, were the biggest and most heavily weaponized battleships ever created, displacing close to 72 tons, 65,317.301 metric tons, at full load, and equipped with 9 18.1-inch 46cm Type 94 main cannons, the largest weapons ever installed on a warship. Yamoto, which takes its name from a historical Japanese province, was created to go head-to-head with the United States. Japan's main foe in the Pacific, and its numerically superior battleship fleet. She was officially commissioned in late 1941, about a week after the assault on Pearl Harbor. She served as the combined fleet's flagship during 1942. And in June of that year, Admiral Isoroku Yamamoto oversaw the Battle of Midway from her bridge, which resulted in a crushing loss for Japan. In early 1943, Musashi assumed command of the combined fleet, and Yamamoto spent the rest of the year responding to American threats. He traveled between the key Japanese naval bases at Truk and Kure. An American submarine finally sank Yamamoto in December 1943, necessitating repairs in Kure, where she would also get an upgrade with more anti-aircraft weapons and radar in early 1944. She was present at the Battle of the Philippine Sea in June 1944, but did not take part in any fighting. Yamamoto was then dispatched to confront American forces occupying the Philippines during the Battle of Leyte Gulf in October 1944. And that was the only time she ever fired her main guns against enemy targets on the surface. In the Battle of Samar, they fought a light escort carrier group of Task Force 77 of the U.S. Navy, Taffy 3, and threatened to scuttle several American troop transports. After being convinced by American airstrikes that they were up against a potent U.S. carrier fleet, the Japanese decided to turn around. As a result of the significant shift in the balance of naval strength in the Pacific, Japan's fleet was severely damaged and hindered by fuel shortages in the home islands by early 1945. In an effort to stop the Allied advance, Yamamoto was sent on a one-way mission to Okinawa in April 1945. She was instructed to beach herself and defend the island until she was ultimately destroyed. It was basically a suicide mission. U.S. submarines and planes found the task force south of Kyushu, and on April 7, 1945, American carrier-based bombers sank her, causing the death of the majority of her crew. Ever since they were built, Yamamoto and her sister Musashi have had a major influence on Japanese culture. Due to their size, speed, and strength, the battleships epitomized Imperial Japanese naval engineering and clearly demonstrated Japan's readiness to protect its interests against Western powers, particularly the United States. Some Japanese people believed that their nation could never fall as long as the Yamamoto could put up a fight because of the ship's symbolic power. What's your favorite battleship? Let us know in the comments and be sure to subscribe to the channel. 4. USS Constitution. The USS Constitution is a legendary U.S. Navy warship. Commissioned in 1797, it played a significant role in defending American interests during the War of 1812. Designed by Joshua Humphreys, the Constitution was a frigate ship that was only about 204 feet, 62 meters long, and 44 feet, 13 meters wide. The ship's hull was made out of dense, strong oak and cedar wood, earning it the nickname Old Ironsides, since British cannonballs bounced right off its sides during a battle with HMS Guerrière on August 19, 1812, at the start of the war. During her time, the USS Constitution seized multiple ships. On top of that, she fought and defeated 5 British warships: Java, Pictou, Caen and Levant, and the aforementioned HMS Guerrière. She operated mainly in the Mediterranean after the War of 1812 and helped secure the HN Gambrill and other slave ships off the coast of Africa. She retired from active duty in 1881, but not before serving for the U.S. Naval Academy as a training ship in the Civil War. During retirement, the ship served as a home for servicemen at the Kittery, Maine-based Portsmouth Navy Shipyard until 1907, when she was then given museum ship status. She finished a 90-port tour of the United States back in 1931. On August 19, 2012, the 200th anniversary of her conflict with the HMS Guerrière, she lifted her sails once again. The USS Constitution, which is still a fully operational naval vessel, still makes a few voyages into Boston Harbor each year, usually around the 4th of July. This allows the ship to be turned around so it receives an equal amount of exposure to the weather while moored throughout the rest of the year. 3. The Bismarck. German battleship Bismarck, which served in World War II, had a brief but remarkable career. The Bismarck was a German battleship built during World War II and launched in 1939. It was considered one of the most powerful ships of its time, with a top speed of 30 knots and a main battery of 8 15-inch, 38.1-centimeter guns. The ship's design was supposed to provide Germany with a naval force capable of challenging the British Royal Navy, which was the dominant naval power in the world back then. The Bismarck saw action in the Atlantic during the start of the war, and in May 1941, it engaged in a famous battle with the British HMS Hood, after being seen near Bergen, Norway. The Royal Navy kept a watchful eye on the Bismarck's development. Britain largely relies on their commercial ships to transport food, munitions, and weaponry. So it was a major fear that Britain could be forced to surrender if a strong and re-energized German Navy could routinely destroy supply ships. The main ammo magazine of the Hood was pierced by a shell only a few minutes into the fire exchange. Only 3 of the 1,400 crew members on board the Hood survived the resulting explosion. The Bismarck managed to sink the Hood, but in the process, it sustained significant damage from enemy fire. The Hood's sinking had a significant impact on both sides' propaganda. Germany could brag about sinking the former most powerful ship in the world. There was a sense and need for vengeance in Britain. The Bismarck needed to be destroyed. Despite the Bismarck's powerful armament and speed, it was ultimately taken down by British forces on May 27, 1941, after being hit by torpedoes. Just 110 of the Bismarck's 2,300 crew members made it out alive. The Bismarck's loss was a significant blow to the German naval effort during World War II, and it highlighted the dominance of the British Royal Navy. The wreck was discovered in 1989 by an expedition under the direction of American oceanographer Robert Ballard. At a depth of over 15,000 feet, 4,572 meters, the battleship was found upright. 2. USS Nevada. The USS Nevada was a magnificent battleship that saw action in both world wars and during some of history's most critical periods. She was the first of her kind to be launched in 1914, and she innovated several improvements such as triple gun turrets, oil fuel, geared turbines, and all-or-nothing armor that would one day inspire modern U.S. battleships. She carried convoys to Europe and patrolled the Atlantic during World War I. Also, she played a role in the Allied invasion of Russia after the Bolshevik Revolution. She had a significant overhaul after the war that increased her speed, weaponry, and defense. The USS Nevada was stationed at Pearl Harbor during World War II on December 7, 1941, when the Japanese launched their attack. She was the only battleship to move during the assault, but she caught on fire after being struck by countless bombs and torpedoes. The vessel was deliberately beached to prevent obscuring the harbor's entry. After significant repairs, she was put back into service and allowed to join the Allied invasion of Normandy on D-Day, when she blasted German positions with her guns. She also helped with landings in Okinawa, Iwo Jima, and southern France. In 1946, the first atomic bomb test at Bikini Atoll was conducted with her as the intended target. She was severely damaged but survived the explosion. She continued to resist sinking even after being deployed for another nuclear test just 1 month later. In 1948, she was finally sunk in the Pacific Ocean by naval gunfire and torpedoes. 1. USS Washington. The USS Washington, BB-56, was a North Carolina-class battleship that served during World War II. She was the second and final ship of her class and the first battleship built for the U.S. Navy since 1923. She was officially named after the state of Washington and was fully commissioned in May 1941. Washington's first assignment was to reinforce the British home fleet in March 1942. She escorted convoys to the Soviet Union and took part in exercises with the Royal Navy. She was briefly the flagship of Task Force 39, but lost her commander, Rear Admiral John W. Wilcox, who drowned in a storm. She returned to the U.S. for an overhaul in July 1942 before joining the Pacific Fleet in September. Washington's most notable role was at the Naval Battle of Guadalcanal on November 14 to 15, 1942. where she engaged and sank the Japanese battleship Kirishima and a destroyer while avoiding taking on any damage herself. She was the only U.S. battleship to sink an enemy battleship in a one-on-one duel during the whole war. She also prevented the Japanese from bombarding U.S. Marine positions on Guadalcanal and helped secure a strategic victory for the Allied forces. After Guadalcanal, Washington mainly served as an escort, providing anti-aircraft and anti-submarine protection. She also occasionally bombarded Japanese shore targets to support amphibious landings. The ship also took part in major campaigns like those in the Gilbert and Marshall Islands, the Marianas and Palau, the Philippines, Iwo Jima, and Okinawa. Washington was eventually decommissioned in June 1947 and held in reserve. She was taken off the Naval Vessel Register in June 1960 and was then sold for scrap. She earned 13 battle stars for her service in World War II, leaving her mark in the history books. Thanks for watching. Which of these ships impressed you the most? Let us know in the comments. Be sure to leave a like on the video if you enjoyed it and subscribe to the channel. See you soon. Bye.